Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about Yellowjackets Season 2 Episode 1. It's called Friends, Romans, Countrymen. So, spoilers for the episode of course, although you've probably already watched the whole season. I've made the bold move with this show to not start Season 2 until after it finished for whatever reason. It launched in a bad weekend for me. I had things going on the weekend that launched, and then for whatever reason, I just never tried to catch up to be in line with the air dates. And the upside to it, though, is that I've got a bit more freedom. Now that we're doing it now, right? I don't have to hit a certain day of the week every week. I can go a little bit quicker, maybe, or I can just get ahead in recordings, whatever it may be. But I did want to check out Season 2. Season 1 was a very solid Season 1. It was an interesting show with some dark humor. There's an interesting mystery, some memorable characters, all that stuff. So it was, I looked at a recap of Season 1 before I watched this episode because a lot did happen. There's a lot of characters. I've got two timelines with a lot of teenage versions of characters and old versions of characters. And there was definitely some stuff that I had forgotten, so I was glad that I sort of read the recap and just got myself up to speed. There was a good previously on at the start of the episode, but there was definitely some other stuff that I felt I needed to kind of refresh myself on. So this is a good Season 2 premiere. I wouldn't say it's an amazing one. I think a couple of the plot lines feel like they're just kind of spinning to get to the point that we're already at as the audience. I think Adult Taste is the one that I would point to where, we saw her wife discover the altar with the dog's head in the season finale. And her plot this episode, there's a couple interesting little snippets of like her going to get a new dog and whatever, but by and large, it's all building up to her discovering the same thing. So it's a little bit, I would say frustrating, but it's a little bit, it's not really moving forward much for us, the audience, because we already know this. We already know what she's going to find. We already understand the context of all this. So it wasn't really like we were that excited to her finding out. It was quite clear when it's brought up to her, when her wife says something about it, that she doesn't know. And we've already established in the show that she has this wild second personality or sleep personality that we're dealing with. So she's surprised when she finds it, of course, because she wasn't expecting to see it there. But she very, very quickly understands that this was the other version of her. There doesn't seem to be much confusion for her in this, but. So, so some of the plot lines kind of felt a little bit like to me, where it was kind of like we're just re-establishing where we are from the end of last season, and we spend the plot line building up to just kind of effectively being kind of at the same point, or at least getting to the point that's not that surprising. I think maybe the other one I would say is adult Natalie, who's obviously been kidnapped by the Lottie's cult. It building up to, I was excited during the episode for Natalie to find out that's who'd taken her. But the actual confrontation when it eventually happens, other than just as a weird naked guy being buried alive for some reason, willingly, might I add. Obviously, Lottie's whole thing seems to be about sacrifice and stuff. And this guy seems quite willing to be buried. But, the actual confrontation is, oh, you're not going to kill me, Natalie, because I've got a message from Travis. And that's kind of the final beat that it ends on. I think if there was one critique I had of Season 1, and it seems to still be true here in Season 2, is that maybe sometimes it's juggling too many plots and characters in the same episodes. I almost wonder if it would benefit from ignoring a couple of the characters for an episode, focusing on just a select 2 or 3, telling a more full story with them, and then sort of rotating through which characters we're using. Still effectively get through all the same plot beats over the course of the season, but just do it in a way that's less piecemeal for every single plot. And the stuff that I enjoyed probably the most is maybe the adult Shauna stuff with Jeff and them covering up the murder of is it Ben? I want to say it was Ben, the guy that she was I forget his name, the artist who was seen and then stabbed. Right. Anyway, so they're covering up his murder, and there's a little comedy intro to get you back up to speed with Misty doing the fake police interrogation. But it leads to this like, oh wait, has she actually erased all of the evidence that she was in his life? And it gets to this point where she finds a key belonging to Ben. I'm just assuming from henceforth that his name was Ben. I'm not sure, but and she's like, oh shit, it's not just his apartment we have to worry about. He had an artist studio, and maybe there's stuff there that would link her to him. So we get her and Jeff was an interesting character in season 1, because Jeff went from being this very almost cliched, maybe he's cheating on the wife husband, to being a very interesting character who he wasn't quite what he seemed, but in the same way he's also exactly what he seems, and it almost makes him more endearing. There's a good example of it in this episode when the teen daughter is giving them shit at the dinner table, and he says he's the cooking master, or the barbecuing master, and the daughter makes a dig at him from being leading into gender roles. And he kind of just says, well, no, I mean, maybe this old school dad shit is how I show it. And he is. He's kind of a cheesy old school. He's excited about selling sofas. He's excited about being a good, cook at home. He's making dumb dad jokes about hot dogs and stuff. Like, he's almost at a point now where he's kind of endearing for just how innocently, like, simple he is. Like, he's such a simple like, he seemed like, oh, we're doing the obvious thing where he's maybe doing nefarious stuff, and he kind of was, because he was doing the whole blackmail thing in season 1, but in a weird way, him trying to deal with the fact that he was the one that was cheated on, when he's, I don't know, it's made him a more interesting character, and there's a few interesting little nuggets throughout this episode with how this progresses. Obviously, you have the awkwardness still of helping his wife cover up this murder. It's obviously awkward when they get to the studio and there's just like a dozen paintings of Shauna in, like, intimate moments, asleep in the bed, kind of snuggled up on the couch. None of them are full on like exposed, but they're all kind of like nude with like a sheet covering her. They're all very intimate and romantic. And obviously this is kind of awkward. And Shauna somehow pivots this. She pivots this so hard by talking about how she gets turned on with the idea of Jeff being with someone else, and it kind of leads to them having sex in this artist studio, where she kind of provokes it out of him. Although when we come back to it, it doesn't go into it in too much detail, but it seems like maybe he couldn't perform. She has that tone in her voice where she's like, Jeff, and he's like, shut up, let's just get on with this. And they deface the paintings, and that's the important plot point. But it leads to like an interesting little scene with him just in his car, listening to Papa Roach and just like letting out his stress and all his pent up frustration by drumming in the car to a rock song. I don't know, it's one of the more interesting dynamics on the show. I think especially once you bring in the teen daughter, who made me laugh this episode, because she's like giving her mum shit about, like, this boyfriend went missing, like, you've done this to dad, and it kind of feels like she's egging her on to like go and actually like confess up. But then the second that Shauna reveals that she's already told her husband, she immediately goes, how could you do that to him? That's so selfish, and storms out. And it was like prime just teenage, like, flipping her logic in the moment to still be mad at her mother, even though yes, her mother had an affair and killed someone. So like, don't get me wrong, she's more justified than most teenagers, but she's been such a I hate my mother like teenage attitude like since the start of the show that she still very much feels like that, even if she has justifiable reasons to be upset, to be hitting back. But it's a really interesting dynamic to me, because Shauna and Jeff effectively, like, I'm not saying that they've completely moved on and they're okay. Obviously, Jeff maybe not being able to perform sexually and then letting out his frustrations in private obviously say that, yeah, there's still like growing pains here. There's still like stuff they have to deal with, and like feelings that they both have, and the stuff they have to get through. Like it's not clean cut, but it's very interesting that in this scenario where she's cheated on him, he's now helping her cover up this guy's murder, and they're almost a united front with their teenage daughter. But it's this weird, like, almost darkly humorous take on it, where they're united in that they're both trying to get over the fact that there was an affair and that there's been a murder, and the daughter's kind of justified in why she's upset. You know, because normally this would be a happy married couple dealing with their delinquent daughter. But here, it's kind of two delinquent parents who are united and being nice to each other. And, like, you know, the dinner scene, like, Sean is playing along with the joke. She's trying to help find a punchline for the hot dog thing. It's kind of surreal. And in a weird way, all this inversion of the norms is just made it a little bit more engrossing as a family unit. Because I definitely had issues like early to mid season 1 when it was just the affair stuff going on. For me, these characters got a lot more interesting when we got towards the end of the season, and of course the iconic "There's no book club" line, which still makes me chuckle occasionally to this day. So, but the daughter's looking into stuff. She finds the the burned ID in the barbecue at the end of the episode. So, interesting stuff happening there. What else have we talked about in the older characters? Misty's investigating Natalie's disappearance, of course. I don't have too much to say about this. I did like the quirky little scene, though, and most of her scenes are quirky, to be fair. But I did like the little scene where she goes to Reddit and she goes to like her like investigation subreddit to see if anyone's talking about the disappearance of Ben. And no, it's not Ben. Ben's the guy in the forest with the girls. Oh shit, that's where I'm getting Ben from. What was the boyfriend's name? What was the boyfriend's name? Oh god damn it! You know what? I can already sense like people already commenting who Ben actually is. Like, I mixed up two names. Well, I've mixed up one name and some dude's name who I can't remember. The problem is that he's not in this episode, so he's not in the cast list that I'm currently looking at. So that is annoying. But anywho, so she goes to the subreddit and she like downvotes this one that's actually onto some things. Like somehow someone got a look at his financial records, and it's mostly normal, but he was clearly buying something for a woman, so therefore it must be a woman. I kind of like this idea, because I almost thought Lottie was going to like find this guy and like kill him or something, and it felt like the sort of thing she might do, and I was looking forward to that. But well, not looking forward to, that's a bit of a weird way to say it, but I don't know, I thought it could go that way, I guess is what I'm saying. So anywho, you know, I'm clicking through IMDb to get this asshole's name because it's bugging me now. Adam! I knew it was a generic name. Adam. It's a generic name. God damn it. Anyway, so well, other than that, that's pretty much all the older character stuff that I think I wanted to mention. I suppose I should mention Lottie a little bit. I don't really have a lot to say about older Lottie at this point. She's doing her cult thing. I get, yeah. So this maybe ties into the younger kid stuff as well. But we see snippets of them like arriving like back in the city, effectively. You know, they're back and there's press because obviously all these like survivors have been found from this plane crash, and we see a little bit of Lottie like post this where her parents are very dismissive and just think she's broken because she's acting weird and she's being quiet and stuff like that. And we see her getting like electroshock therapy or something to that effect, and seeing the path that she's on. So I don't have much to say about that yet. Obviously, we had all the stuff in season 1 with her, maybe having visions and the whole thing with her parents in the flashback with the car crash. Like, there's stuff going on with her, and I'm curious to see how they progress it from here. The fact that she's got a cult that is burying people alive in the forest, and they're wearing masks, it's very similar to the imagery, it's a lot more clean, because they're still connected to civilization here, but obviously there's a lot from that time that she's still utilizing. She feels she found something that she is still making use of in the real world. And it's kind of different to Misty, who wanted to feel important and popular, and like she was a vital part in everyone's lives, and she's still like aiming for that, but it's a little bit different to this like almost like sense of purpose and like powerful force that Lottie feels that she's tapping into, where I don't think there's as much doubt from her, or neediness, I guess is maybe the word that I'd say Misty is. She's very needy about everything that she is grasping for, whereas Lottie feels like she's very sure in what she's connected to, at least in the future anyway. And I say future, I mean the present day stuff. So the stuff in the past with the teenagers is interesting. So apologies to Ben for calling Adam Ben for most of this review, but not much with him this episode. He's just kind of helping look for, or he's helping like put all the pieces of the map together that teen Natalie and Travis are making when they're going out hunting. It's the middle of winter. It's been 2 months, they say, since the finale, as far as this part of the timeline goes, and Shauna's going and just like talking to dead Jackie. I did like a double take where it just cut to a scene with her talking to Jackie, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Jackie died at the end of last season, and sure enough, she is dead, and it sort of switches to the corpse, which has been relatively well preserved, but I guess that's because it's the middle of winter and she's frozen, so we're getting like a natural freezer effect in the outside, which shows you how cold it is. So that's going on. Shauna's kind of losing it, talking to dead Jackie. The episode ends with her taking a bite of her ear. A bit of her ear falls off earlier on in the episode, and it ends with her shoving it in her mouth, because they're almost out of bear. They've been feeding off this bear for 2 months, and they've been rationing the meat as best they can, but things are getting dire, food's not being found, so we're getting to the cannibalism in a more direct way. That's all fine. Yeah, I guess the bigger things in the past stuff was probably more Thaisa and Van, and the idea that Thaisa is it's almost like being with a werewolf, where she's becoming this other person at night, and Van's staying with her to sort of keep her at bay, but it's leading to her being injured. Van's got marks on her wrist, and we see later in the episode that it looks like Thaisa's being herself because she's kissing Van, but then she bites her lip, and it's like, no, this was the, I don't know, dark Thaisa, or whatever we're going to call the version that wakes up at night. So Thaisa's feeling really guilty and thinks Van's like putting herself in danger by being with her, and she kind of de-escalates it by, assuring her that she cares about her and she's not scared of her, and they say "I love you" for the first time, and it's a sweet enough scene. Writing it in blood on her arm because she's bleeding because she got bit in the lip is definitely a way to do it, I would say. But I think, again, a lot of the stuff in the past was mostly just kind of like catching up to where we are now with these characters, as opposed to really advancing too much. There's the one character whose name I don't even know, because she's a relatively minor character, but she's the singing character in this episode, and everyone keeps getting mad at her for singing. So maybe this is a way of them, just bringing up a couple of those smaller background characters on the team who may get a bit more time now that we've lost a character. Lost a couple of characters, and obviously Travis wants to find his brother, who is almost most certainly dead because he's been out in the snow for 2 months. That said, though, it feels like that's ripe for a reveal. That's ripe for, he found something that's kept him alive, whether it's another place, maybe he found someone who's keeping him alive in some other cabin somewhere. Like, if we have not seen a body, we can't assume anything as the audience. Like, but it makes sense that the characters are all saying he should probably accept at this point that his little brother's dead. But as a TV audience, I'm saying, I don't know if I quite buy that, but we will find out. So, that's all fine. Yeah, it's a fine first episode. I wouldn't say it's like one of the show's best, and I think it obviously spends a lot of time just kind of reaffirming where characters are. And like I say, some of the plots, like Thaisa just like discovering the same thing that her wife already discovered in the finale, I think isn't as exciting because we already know what this is. We're already here as the audience, and we're waiting for her to catch up. And sometimes waiting for characters to catch up to get to where we already are can be a little frustrating, And I think part of it as well is because there's so many plot lines and there's so many characters, both the young and old versions, that each one doesn't get that much time. So there's not really any time in this plotline to do much other than just have her go through the beats of finding this thing. So it doesn't really feel like you get a whole lot of other things either. So it's a perfectly fine episode. There's some good little character beats sprinkled throughout. I think definitely the interesting dynamic of Shauna and Jeff and their teen daughter is definitely feels like the most unique dynamic on the show, I would say, and certainly the thing I enjoyed the most here. But I know we're getting adult Van at some point. We have the cult stuff to deal with in present day. So yeah, it's interesting. I do wonder like how much of the season we're going to spend talk. As much as my favorite stuff in the episode was like still covering up the murder of Adam, I do wonder like how much we're going to be spending the season still talking about him and what happened with him. I would probably assume and hope that we're going to be moving on quite quickly, but I said the daughter's investigating it, so maybe not. I'm not sure. But yeah, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. So that is my ramblings on episode 1 of Yellowjackets season 2. Apologies again to Ben, but your name's just as generic as Adam, so I take no. Honestly, like I had to look up everyone's names before I started this. I was like like when you've got an ensemble cast like this, I mean, you'd come back after a season, like it's very easy to like forget everyone. I think I remember Natalie, but like I was struggling until someone said the name Shauna, like what Melanie Lynskey's character was called. It was some time away always does it to me, but that is the review. So thank you very much for joining me. I will see you for episode 2. If not before, then I'll see you in about a week for episode 2. And check out, if you're a fan of Person of Interest, I just started reviewing that from the start last week. I'll be doing episode 2 of that later this week, so if that's of interest, no pun intended, then go check out that. But that is me. Thank you for joining me. Keep watching TV. Of course, you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. But that is the show, so thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?